This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show that focuses on the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends. We find people who can talk about the trends that are impacting their workplace in such a way that you and I can clearly understand them and, more importantly, hopefully, gather some information from my guests so that we can react to similar trends in our business. I'm trying to get information and ideas out of my guests, which will help you and me get better at whatever it is that we do. Without a doubt, one of the primary trends we've seen in the workplace in the past, I'm going to say 36 months, if not more, is a focus on mental health. Now, this was something that was not previously spoken about back in the day. You didn't talk about this. However, it had come to the forefront prior to the pandemic. People wanting to take mental health days. I remember reading this and reporting on this to some of my clients saying, I think in the future we can see a demand from employees to take mental health days, days where they just feel overwhelmed and they're going to report in and say, I'm not coming in today. Today I'm taking a mental health day. And I was somewhat surprised by it. I couldn't imagine that happening. Well, post-pandemic, goodness knows the mental health challenges of our society have just skyrocketed. I don't know that there's any true way to put your finger on how bad it is out there or how it changed from prior to the pandemic to currently, but we know that it is definitely accelerated in some way or another. The youth of our society particularly have been vulnerable to this. Everybody's been vulnerable to it, but I would say the youth of our society have particularly been vulnerable to this and have been given a lot of attention throughout their short lives thus far about the mental health. Again, this was something we didn't talk about back in the day, and I predict that this becomes a part of the workplace. My guest on the show today is Chuck Thuss. Chuck, you may, for those of you who've been around Mobile for a while, you may recognize his name. He was a goalie for the Mobile Mystics, and Chuck had a professional career in the minor hockey leagues. And when it was over, as he will freely tell, I'm not telling on Chuck here, he struggled with the transition to leave. He struggled with finding a purpose. Once his day was begun outside of hockey, he didn't know exactly what his goals should be. And he's not alone, as we'll soon learn. There are lots of pro athletes that upon finishing their career, either at the peak of their career in the major leagues or struggling somewhere around the minors, once they've finished their career, they lack a meaning and purpose, and they struggle. And the struggle often includes alcohol. It can include drugs. It can include both. And unfortunately, too many of these athletes end up committing suicide because of a lack of purpose, because athletics had fueled such a big part of their lives. Chuck went through this process, and today he's the owner of a company called Compassionate Connection, and he works with athletes, both professional, amateur, etc., as well as people outside of athletics, to help them into their transition beyond the workplace, their athletic workplace. Chuck's conversation will have a lot to do with people in succession planning. If you've been in charge of your business for a long time and that business has been your identity, much like many of the athletes, that job on the court or the rink or the park or whatever it may be has been their identity. They struggle with that identity once it's over. business owners, particularly family business owners, are in the same boat. We're going to talk to Chuck about his story. We're going to talk about how he works with others and hopefully give you some ideas on how to take care of the people in your business. Speaking of succession planning, that was a beautiful segue that I did. I'm patting myself there on the back. Mark this date on your calendar, November the 4th. November the 4th, I will be one of 4 people hosting a succession planning workshop. Let me give you the details. Doors will open at 4. Content starts at 4:30. It will be held at the Community Foundation of South Alabama, their new building downtown. I think it's on Water Street. New building downtown somewhere. I'm eager to see it. I've seen photos, and I've been given a FaceTime tour of it. It's beautiful. I will be leading a portion of the 1 hour's content, me talking about mentally preparing to transition out of the workplace. Jamie Sandifer and Mark Salyers will be talking about the financing of succession planning, or how to make the money work, and they'll give insights into different options of that regard. And Rick Miller, who is a coach here in town, not an athletic coach, but a business coach here in town, who coaches people in the succession process, both the heir apparent as well as the person leaving the workplace. All of us will be delivering content from 4:30 to 5:30 with a reception to follow. Again, November the 4th, Community Foundation of South Alabama. If you want more invitation or to get your name on the registration list, email me, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. Again, that's Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. My friends, the professionals at Sandifer Wealth Management, are co-hosting this. They are a fine group of people with a great interest in helping their clients in the succession planning process. You'll get to meet them if you come to the event. Email me again if you want to get registered. When I come back, I'll be with Chuck Thuss, talking about the transition out of athletics into society and the challenges that he had and what we can do for others who are experiencing something similar. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be right back.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Now offering the purchase of the Stella Artois Chalice, a beautiful stemmed glass with the Stella logo. The purchase of each Stella Artois Chalice provides 5 years of clean water for someone in one of 13 developing countries around the world. Learn more at StellaArtois.com. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
A cool thing happened back in '64. That's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors. And ever since then they've earned your family's trust, fixing your AC when it bites the dust. So call Keith Air Conditioning, they're number one. Keith Air Conditioning, they get it done. Award-winning service done with pride. With Keith you're gonna sleep in comfort tonight.
3 generations and 2 names you can count on, Keith and Carrier. Hi, this is Brent Keith. Turn to the experts is not just a tagline in my family, it's a promise. Every technician is an experienced air conditioning professional. Their money-saving experience and expertise diagnoses your problem accurately and efficiently. Speaking of money, we're offering $25 off our introductory price for a total comfort maintenance plan. And ask about our specials on new Carrier systems. Keith and Carrier, the experts you turn to.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
I'm in the studio today with my friend Chuck Thuss. Let me give you a little bit of Chuck's background. For those of you who are long in Mobile, you may remember his name. When I met him, he had retired from hockey, but for the longest time, he was the goalie for the Mobile Mystics. Today, Chuck runs a company called Compassionate Connection. He has a remarkable podcast called Warriors Unmasked. He's a native of Ontario, Canada, played college at Miami University, where he was a walk-on and became team captain by the end of that year. He then entered the International Hockey League, the American Hockey League, and the East Coast Hockey League, during which one of those stints he was with the Mobile Mystics. I'll give you more of his bio as we go along. Chuck, thanks for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Cam, I'm excited to be here and grateful for the invitation, so thank you.
Compassionate Connection is the business. Warriors Unmasked is the podcast. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today and why it's so important.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And Cam, Compassionate Connection was born back in about 2016, and it really came from my journey. As you well know, I've shared a lot of it with you on a very personal level, but I struggled for a long, long time with mental illness and anxiety and depression and OCD, and still do to this day. And having my background with athletes and being an athlete myself, I saw that there was a huge need in that arena for somebody that has walked the walk, talked the talk, to reach back and support these young elite athletes. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I sit down with them, talk with them, make a heart connection with them, open up a safe space where they can share what's on their heart and in their mind. And then we work through it and we help heal it, and so that they can show up as the best version of themselves that they can. Mental
health has become a go-to topic in many workplaces, in the public. Certainly the pandemic has impacted people's mental health. It's probably worse than any of us really know out there. I know the school that my kids and your kids go to have seen a surge in kids seeking counseling. But you've got a niche, and that is the athletes, the retired athletes, both minor league and major league. Tell me, is it more acute, the mental health issues more acute in the athletes, or is that just where you've landed?
I think that's just where I've landed because of my background. Because being an athlete since I was 3, I started playing hockey back in Ontario when I was 3, and dealing with it throughout my entire career, not really realizing it until around 2008, what exactly it was, and then reaching back and having conversations with people in prominent positions in sports. And it is rampant in sports. It really is. And whether people want to admit it or not, I'm here to tell you that it is. And when I walk in and I work with a team, say it's a collegiate team, and you're talking 25 athletes, I'm having conversations with probably 10 to 15 of them. And that's how rampant it really is.
So you give a presentation, there are 25 athletes in the room, and 10 to 15 of them come to you one-on-one.
Absolutely, yes.
What are you saying that they recognize is going on in them?
I share my vulnerable story about where I was, the journey that I've been on. And I just get, like I said, I get very vulnerable myself. And I think that's the key. When I open my heart to them, they find that they can then open their heart to me, but they're not going to do it first. I promise you. Athletes just aren't like that. And you can look at an athlete and say, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. Because I did it for years. And you wear a mask and you put a smile on, you go to work, you do your thing, and you leave. And when you get home, you land behind the door and you start crying. I did that for years and years and years. And you love what you do, but you're struggling. And you just don't have the, I don't know what the word is maybe, but you don't have the nerve to speak up at that time because of your fear of what it'll do to your athletic career.
So employers that I work with love 2 categories of people. They love veterans. They love anybody that's been through the military, because they feel like the military has taught them some discipline, some ways to get things done. They have a very focused attitude, many military veterans. Secondly, they like athletes, because the athletes also know discipline. They know facing challenges. They know how to get through difficult times. They think, well, the employers think, well, as an athlete, they've had to train, they've had to prepare, they've had to do this work. That would lend itself to a good employee. However, what you're saying is many of these athletes may be a little bit more delicate than what the employers recognize?
Yes, I think on a personal level they are. Now, it doesn't take away from their determination and their work ethic and how they show up and do the job, because athletes and veterans are very, very similar in that way. They are amazing employees or employers because they get it. But the one thing that athletes do deal with is that external pressure. When somebody looks at them, and the internal pressure, when somebody looks at them, they think they've got it all. Whether they're on a full ride scholarship, whether they're playing, they're the quarterback at their local high school team, or they're in the NHL, the NFL, the NBA, they're making tons and tons of money. They think they've got it all. And they do to a degree, but there's a lot of them that are struggling at the same time because they can't ask for the guidance and the support that they need in fear that it will all come to an end.
Is it a personality type that doesn't want to ask, or is it they think I'm this person, therefore I have to be this person?
Yes, that's a big part of it. And they think they're the only ones dealing with it. When they look around their locker room, and whether there's 12 other guys, 15 or 100 other guys on a football team, they think they're the only one dealing with it. So they're alone. I'm going to man up. I've got told all these years that I'm an athlete, I'm tough, I'm all of these different things, and I believe it, so I can't show this side of me that may not be as strong as everybody thinks, but yet it's tremendous strength to reach out. To hold it in is one level of strength. To share it is a whole nother level.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying there. I'm curious. So the conversation is somewhat more common today, particularly around athletes, and and you guys, you and your podcast and your business are making it more comfortable and more aware, bringing more awareness to these challenges. Let's go back 20 years ago. Let's say 25 years ago, before this conversation was happening. Tell me what I would have seen in one of these, let's say, former athletes who was struggling in their workplace when they didn't have a release.
I think you'd see a lot of self-medication, meaning alcohol or drugs. You would see a lot of frustration. You would see a lot of anger is another form that people see it, and just a lot of discontentment. They don't know why they're not happy, but they're not happy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is because everything that's going on inside, they don't know how to manage all those emotions, all those feelings. And that was me for the longest time. I didn't know how to manage all of that. And today I know how to manage it for the most part. There's days that I'm not real good at it. Just ask my wife.
Yeah.
Jamie will be happy to tell you. But for the most part, I can manage it. And that's really what I try to do when I work with, whether they're high school kids or collegiate or professional. I try to give them tools in their toolbox so they can manage it, because it's not going anywhere. And just because you struggle with anxiety or depression, it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. I'm telling you right now, because for years and years, people looked at me and they thought that I had it all. And now I was afraid to tell people that I deal with it. And it's had just the opposite of effect. People actually come to me more. They support me more. They admire me more for speaking up. And I thought it was going to be the other way for years that I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that once it seems to be that once people realize that there is a body, there's a group out there who are struggling with the same thing, there is a communal feeling of let's go through this together and I'm not alone. There's a significance to that, and I don't know exactly what it is, of not being alone. Is that one of the messages that you're trying to convey?
One of the first ones that I convey is that they are not alone, because as athletes especially, we feel like we're alone, because when we look in the locker room, nobody else has said anything. Nobody else wants to talk about it. Nobody else is coming to me and saying, hey, I'm struggling. And therefore we internalize it like, I'm the only guy in here that's struggling, so I just need to keep it inside. But the minute that I start to share, you're not alone. These people deal with it all the time. And I'm one of them, and I'm here to walk this journey with you. You can just see the shoulders start to release, their hearts start to open up and be like, okay, I think I can trust you. And as the conversation goes on, you just build that trust and you open that heart.
Where does it come from? Not the trust, where does I don't want to call it an illness, but where does this challenge originate? I mean, I talked to CEOs who are about to retire. In fact, I talked to one yesterday, and he readily admits that he did not prepare the way he should for his retirement, and it caught him off guard. And he lost purpose immediately following the retirement. So there is, I guess, a similar thing going on in the workplace for executives, particularly executives that have run companies or a family-run business. And that comes from a lack of preparation of thinking about their next step. You know, they just think I'll retire someday, but they don't actively pursue preparing for the retirement. They may have prepared it financially, but not personally. Is it safe to say that to the athletes that you're working with, they've not imagined themselves beyond the last day on the ice or the last day on the field?
100%. And they also worry about things that are out of their control. And what we work on a lot, and it's the same as a business person and it's the same as an athlete, it's really the same approach, Cam, is life is happening right now. What can we do? What can we take care of right now that will eventually help us take care of tomorrow? Because we can't take care of tomorrow until we get there. But what can I do today to make sure that today is maximized, that I'm in the best position right here, right now, to make sure that whether it's finding my purpose, whether it's transitioning out of sports, whether it's transitioning into retirement, what can I take care of right now that will help me and make me the best person that I can be? And a lot of people are so busy living in tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, that They're so busy working on that they totally forget that life is happening right now.
Yeah.
Because this is where life is happening, right where you and I are talking. This is it. This is all we have. And we can worry about what's happening at 11 or 4 or 6 today, but we're not there. And whether we make it there or not, we'll see. Hopefully we both do.
Right.
But my point is that life is happening right now, and we need to take care of this moment. And when you dial it back, that really, really helps. The other thing that people have a tendency to do is they live in the past. What should I have done? I regret what I didn't do. And that's where a lot of the depression comes in, because they try to fix what they can't fix in the past.
Is it mostly trying to fix a play? Is it mostly trying to fix a game? A score? You're a former goalie. Gosh, if I had only done this, that goal wouldn't have scored and we would have won the game.
Absolutely. It's trying to fix things you can't fix. And whether it's a decision you made, whether it's a shot you didn't stop, whatever it might be, a play you didn't make, what would have happened if, I could have done this, if only. But that's not how it worked out. So we have to be where we are and move forward and forgive yourself for not making that play.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're only human.
Yeah. When we come back from break, I want to talk about the employers out there who I want to talk about the signs of the struggle that an employer might see and what he or she can do to help the person that's going through this struggle. And then let's talk about some people who managed their transition well and those that managed it poorly and what that looked like when we get back from break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm in the studio today with my friend, the Chuckster, Chuck Thuss. His business is Compassionate Connection. His podcast is Warriors Unmasked. Find both of them online. We'll be right back.
I'm Paul Lewis, General Manager for Lewis Construction. Many of our commercial buildings you drive by daily on both sides of the bay are the fruits of our client relationship since our beginning in the early 80s. It is our mission to bring value to our clients, from retrofits to ground-up construction and everything in between. We have more advocates than any of our competitors who have been in business twice as long. Same with repeat business, same with referrals. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com and let's talk about your next commercial project.
Hi, I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing in downtown Mobile. We make drinkable, flavorful craft beer perfect for life on the Gulf Coast. So pick up one of our 6-packs before your next adventure or stop by our tap room for a relaxing afternoon with friends. Follow us on social media for the latest beer releases and events and ask for a Braided River at your favorite bars and restaurants. Thanks for your support. We look forward to sharing our beers with you.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
This is Cam Marston, and I'm with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, if a homeowner thinks they have termites, do you offer inspections? What about someone buying a new home? Can you come in and take a look and see if there are termites in their new home?
Yeah, basically what we would do on a home above and beyond anyone else is we actually do a thorough inspection. But above that, we will use infrared imaging that will allow us to see problems in the wall and at times can tell us if there's anything going on.
That's fantastic, Cajun Mike. How can people find you?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com. In the studio today with Chuck Thuss. He's the former owner of Southern Sports Supply. I remember walking into your store, Chuck, and I saw more hockey gear in that store than I had seen accumulated ever in my lifetime. And I remember, I think I asked you, is that the sport that they play on the slippery stuff? We simply don't know much about hockey around here. Former owner of the Southern Sports Supply, today a podcaster, an author, a consultant with Compassionate Connection. Chuck, prior to the break, what can an employer look for? What are the signs of someone that's struggling first? And then we'll talk about what they can do.
Absolutely. And thank you, Cam, because this is a real key thing, because a lot of employers are so busy running their business and just thinking everybody's clicking along. But I think it's important to know that one of the biggest things that I see even in athletes is self-medication. A lot of times it starts out as just a couple of beers after work, and then it gets to 4 or 5 beers after work, maybe a couple times a week, and then all of a sudden it's a 6-pack or a 12-pack 4 or 5 times a week. And that is a real telltale sign. That's probably the number one. The number 2 is lack of sleep. If they're coming in groggy and tired all the time, something is going on. And I would encourage you to ask them, because I know for me, it's hard to sleep. When you're full of anxiety, it's hard to sleep. Your body's just buzzing and vibrating, and the last thing you want to do is sleep. Now, the other side of it, when you're feeling a little bit of depression, all you want to do is sleep. So that's the other side of it. If all they're wanting to do is go home and have a nap and they feel groggy, all I want to do is sleep, there's something going on there as well.
So the term anxiety I hear today fairly regularly. This is something that as a parent we are concerned about in our own children. There are colleagues of ours that claim to have anxiety issues. Of course, I wouldn't never doubt them. So perhaps they do have anxiety issues. Define it. Tell me what anxiety is and tell me what it feels like.
For me, Cam, and for many of the people that I talk with, it starts with a heaviness. For me, it starts with a heaviness in my legs, and I can feel it coming up through my legs. But it's also, to break it down, it's kind of a nervous feeling, a jittery feeling, lots of energy. You can't sit still, almost like your body is vibrating to a degree as well. Hold something that's like maybe a shoulder vibrator or something. Just hold it in your hand and feel how your whole body vibrates.
Yeah.
Your body inside feels like it's doing just that. And it's an uncomfortable feeling. There is ways to move through it, and there's ways to deal with it. But that's really what it feels like, is that your body on the inside, not on the outside. A lot of people can't see it, but your body just is, it's like you're holding a vibrator, and it's just vibrating throughout your whole system.
One of those pressure things that you put on your tired muscles. I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
I know, well, maybe I don't. What causes it? Is it the focus in the future and the regret of the past is what generates the anxiety?
A lot of it comes from the future, but sometimes it's just triggered by things you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I've gotten, like, I'll wake up certain days and I'm just anxious.
Yeah.
I have no idea why. Didn't know that I would, don't really have anything on the docket that's huge that day or that's pressing, but I wake up and my whole body's vibrating. And sometimes there's a reason, sometimes there's not. But once you know that feeling and you know it's there, you know exactly what I'm speaking of.
I remember reading something not long ago that says when you can identify an emotion, when you can name it, when you can essentially point to it, I am right now feeling anger. I am right now feeling anxiety. I am right now feeling sadness. That it's a big step towards resolving the problem, is to be able to define what it is that you're feeling. What do you think?
Absolutely. And that's a big part to being able to move through it. And that's one of the things that I like to do is, I wonder why I'm feeling this anxiety. I wonder why I'm feeling anxious right now. But feeling through that also is one of the tools that I help people realize so that they can help move through it.
So the employer can look out over his or her workforce and say, so-and-so has been showing up regularly very groggy, something may be happening there, or so-and-so is showing up every day and I feel like they may be drinking a little bit at night. There's something happening there. What do you think what's the line that the employer should take? Do they cross the line and say, hey, what's wrong? Do they go to the employee and say, hey, I want you to go talk to somebody? Do they acknowledge what's going on in the employee and say, I can see something's up here and I'm going to encourage you to go get fixed? Or what should the employer do?
I like all of those approaches, and really walking up to the person and saying, and if it was you and I'd say, hey, Cam, I noticed that you're having a tendency of showing up a little groggy or always wanting to nap, or maybe that you're having a few beers every night after work. I just want you to know I care. First and foremost, I care about you as a person. Work is totally on the side burner here. I care about you, and I want to know, is everything okay? You don't have to tell me, but if I can support you in this, or if we can get you somebody to talk to, I'm all in. I'll take care of it. I just want you to know that I support you. If something's going on, I'm with you 100%.
So does that cross a line, do you feel? There are employers out there who would say, oh man, I don't want to open up this can of worms. I don't want to get into this. I already got all the headaches I can manage. Now I've got to be an emotional support for my employee. Give me the other side of that.
Yeah, and I'm not asking you to be the guy that they talk to, but get them to somebody to talk to, like me, like a counselor, like a psychologist, somebody that is trained to do it. Because right now you may be only getting 50 or 60% of that employee.
Yeah.
What happens to your business if you get 80 or 90 or 100% plus that employer or the employee knows that you care about them as a person at a very deep level. That's profound.
I'm finding in our workplace environment today, culture being a big retention tool. And I've, in my own sales calls recently, have been calling on some companies who have remarkably low turnover, considering the high turnover environment that we're in these days right now. So they seem to have a magic. And I say, what's part of the magic in their attitude is culture. And the guy said to me yesterday, we develop a culture in our workforce that is very applicable in the boardroom, in the workroom where people are getting the job done, as well as the family room back home. Our culture is not just about the workplace. It's about the people and how they can take it and enhance their entire life, not just get more out of them at work during the day.
And I would agree with that 100%, because we as humans, we're one package, and everything is all one. You know, whether we're an athlete, whether we're in the boardroom, whether we're having fun fishing, it's all us. We're all one piece. We're all one human being. And you can't segregate, even though we try to say, well, this is my work me, this is my family me, it's still me.
Yeah.
And we're one human. And I think, and my experience has been, whether you're an athlete or you're in the boardroom, if that employer or that coach shows that they care about you as a person, you are more apt to go through the wall for them and do the extra, do the little bit more, do whatever it takes to get the job done, whether it's score the goal, shoot the basket, spike the ball, whatever it is, or you stay to work another hour or two to get the management project done that you're working on. You have a tendency to go a little bit more because you know that they care about you first as a person.
So lots of questions appearing in my head here. I'm trying to manage them. Talk to me about somebody that managed this transition well, and what they did. What were their steps that made them manage it well?
I think the first one that comes to me, Cam, is purpose, knowing what the purpose is, but also knowing and having a toolbox full of tools that they can use on a daily basis is so important. And that some of the tools that I like to use are just downtime. Disconnect from your cell phone, disconnect from TV, Netflix, your neighbors, the radio. Just sit and be. Just ground yourself, center yourself, and allow yourself to sit with what I like to call the one that all that is, and just listen.
Be quiet.
And be quiet.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy talking, we're so busy communicating, texting, emailing, we're so busy doing everything. But our self-care is the last thing we worry about, and it should be the first.
I think that's interesting that your advice to an athlete who may be listening right now, who is recognizing that one of these days, or through a torn knee or something like that could happen at any moment, that they will no longer be this athlete. And your first level of advice to them is, I just want you to sit down and be quiet for 20 minutes. Put your phone away and stop reacting, and just, it seems like these people, and I think people in general, when they want advice, it includes action. Do this, then do this, then do this. Here's the recipe. The step one of your recipe, it is an action, but is stop.
Yes, and be a human being instead of a human doing.
Yes,
is a huge piece. And the other thing that I would say, and it doesn't matter if you're a high school student playing high school basketball, volleyball, football, or you're a major league star, it's all the same, because you're all it's all emotions. It's all dealing with the same thing. And I can tell you that I did a horrible job of transitioning out of sports, and most athletes do. And it's a real thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that we're not equipped to fill that hole that's being left in our life that was for so long filled by the sport we played.
We're coming up on break. I'm getting the notice on my timer here, but I want to talk a little bit when we come back from break. We didn't address people who do it poorly. I want to know what, some stories. I'm very curious of what this would look. You can probably hear someone's story and say, oh gosh, that's a person that did not transition well, and what that outcome may be. I'm very curious about if there's something that a coach could do who may be listening right now, coaching a high school team, a little league team, whatever. Is there something a coach can do right now today that will influence his or her athletes somewhere down the road to make their transition, whether it's out of high school, whatever, or if it's out of college, whatever, or perhaps even in some professional level? Let's get into that when we get back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm with my friend, the Chuckster, Chuck Thuss. Find his podcast, folks. It's called Warriors Unmasked. I assume, Chuck, it's on all the traditional podcast outlets out there. Find that, take a listen to it. He's got a co-host named Clint Malarchek, and Clint is a former hockey player. And I need to get to break, which I said we were going to do in a moment. I'm running off the rails. It's called Warriors Unmasked. It's hosted by Chuck and Clint Malarchek. We'll be right back after this break.
At Roy Lewis Construction, we're in the business of adding value. Whether it's working with you to meet your unique business needs or making investments in our community in lasting ways, providing unparalleled value and quality in every commercial construction project. When planning your next commercial project, reach out to Roy Lewis Construction. We'll pair you with a designer that best suits your project needs and work with that designer to balance the best architectural outcome with the best budget outcome. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com, building legacies one relationship at a time.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
Hey, this is Cam. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're really enjoying the podcast. Do me a favor and search for Cam Marston on your social media outlets and like us or follow us or whatever is the right thing to do. Also, if you know others who'd benefit from the podcast, please forward it on to them and encourage them to listen. If you're so inclined, we'd love your rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings matter. Finally, don't be a stranger. Email me with your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, your show ideas, whatever. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you very much for listening. Now, back to the show. We're back. I'm in the studio today with my friend Chuck Thuss. He is the owner of Compassionate Connection. He's the host of the podcast Warriors Unmasked. He was a goalie and at Miami University in Ohio. Let me list you some of the awards that Chuck won as a player. The Central Collegiate Hockey Association Goalie of the Year, All League. He was the Miami University Athlete of the Year. He was the team MVP, first team All-American, and the recipient of the Terry Flanagan Award, which honors a player for perseverance, dedication, and courage while overcoming severe adversity. Chuck, your background is phenomenal. What you've done since then is really powerful, what particularly you're doing today. Prior to the break, I said, what can a coach do to help his or her players, whether they be high school, college, or post-collegiate, prepare for their transition? Is there something today a coach can do for their players' future?
There really is, Cam. And I would say bring in somebody like myself, and that sounds like self-promotion, and here's the reason that I say that is I've been through what all these young athletes are going through and what they're going to go through. And they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's ahead of them, whether you're a high school kid, a collegiate kid, or a professional grown-up kid. They don't know what's ahead in that transition to retirement. I can help walk them through that. I can guide them. I can prepare them because as athletes, we think we're going to play forever. We just think the horizon goes forever. And I don't have to worry about life after sports. No, not me. That's a long way away. And I can assure you, I played 8 years after I left Miami, and it went that fast.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're like, wow, okay, it's all done. Now what? And there is a huge purpose piece that comes with that because you've lost your purpose. Your purpose was to get up, play your sport the best you could, improve, make sure you're helping your team win. And now what is your purpose? Why are you here? Because it's bigger. Sports is just something you did. It's not who you are. And that's what a lot of athletes mistaken. They think it's who they are. I'm a football player. I'm a hockey player. No, it's just what you do really, really well. Let's find out who you are at the core and what you bring to the table because life and the world is waiting for you.
All right, so we're going to pick up the newspaper or go online at some point. They don't do much newspapers anymore. And we're going to read a story about an athlete who had a ton of money, played professionally, but met some sort of crazy demise. They were caught stealing something. They were caught, cheating on somebody or something. And these stories get blown up in the media. We enjoy watching these heroes. It's an awful part of the human condition, but we enjoy watching these heroes get cut down. Tell me likely what the story is behind that athlete.
There's a huge chance that he's lost his purpose. He's lost that piece within him of what am I here for? What am I supposed to do after sports? And a lot of us get caught up in that position. And we just, a few weeks ago, we lost another hockey player due to overdose. And it just breaks my heart. He has a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I just feel like he was not able to find his purpose after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Did not reach out and ask for help because you don't ask for help if you played in the National Hockey League. You got it all, right? You've got a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids. You've got it all. What could be the problem? And that story just too often just repeats itself. And like you said, whether it's that they go bankrupt because they just keep spending money looking for happiness, they're cheating on their wife looking for happiness. But the ultimate goal or the ultimate thing that's going on is they don't know who they are anymore. They've lost who they are. They're looking outer for happiness. They can't find it within, so they're looking on the outside, and they're just not able to find it. And sometimes it's it doesn't work out real well.
More of my listeners are going to have access to high school athletes than college athletes, than professional athletes. So let's go with the bulk of the listeners and who they may have access to. What would you tell? Imagine you had a high school baseball team sitting in front of you, and the coach introduced you and gave you your introduction here, your bio here, full of accolades. What are you going to say to a group of 16, 17, 18-year-old boys? Well, it could be a girls' soccer team, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them? Because when I talk to my high school kids, I get this blank stare, and I would suspect that you would get the same thing too. What are you going to say to them that will help them down the road?
I first and foremost would share my journey with them so that they understand that I know where they are. And because I think that once you make that connection with them on that level, especially with an athlete, it opens up a whole different realm that most people can't get to because the athlete does, whether they realize it or not, looks and says, this person's never played. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what I'm going through. So you make that heart connection. You make that connection that they know exactly that you know what they're dealing with. And then you just share with them, look, you're 16, 17 years old. You may go on to play in the MLS. You may go on to play MLB, and that's wonderful. But at some point, this is all going to come to an end. And just know that you aren't the sport that you're playing. It's just something you do really well. And how are we going to plan for your purpose? What are you going to do when this is all over? How are we going to transition? And then you start putting tools in their toolbox to do so.
So an athlete's career can come to an end very abruptly. It doesn't equate to the risks. There are no risks, relatively few risks, to a business person in retirement. They know that their 65th or 67th year is coming. They can see it a long way out. An athlete's career could be ended with the snap of a knee, a trade or something, a new young guy who's come into the league, and suddenly their career is over. In the clap of thunder, it's over. So it's a shock, I would suspect, to these athletes that everything that I've lived for has been ended instantaneously.
Instantaneously. You're used to playing in front of 20,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 people or 50 people. And now all of a sudden, nobody wants your autograph. Nobody wants your picture. And quite frankly, I don't know that they care anymore who you are, except for a select few that continue to hold a legendary status for where they played. But it is a life changer, and it's very hard to deal with. And it becomes very instantaneous how fast it ends. And you have to be prepared for that, mostly mentally and emotionally, because you have to understand, again, you're not just the sports or the athlete. You are much more than that. So what do you bring to the table? Let's dig into that. What do you have inside of you that you can now draw from to form your next purpose? Because purpose, whether you're a retiring executive or you're an instant retiring athlete, there's purpose that you have to carry in your life. And there's ways to go about finding what that purpose is and living on purpose, as you and I have talked about.
Is there parallel businesses or occupations that face this same challenge, or is it unique only to athletes? Are there, ambulance drivers or somebody that like that lives a life of excitement or adrenaline? Are there parallel businesses?
I think so, but I don't know that there's anything quite like being an athlete, because there's that rush of making that big play, of winning a championship, which a lot of us, if we're fortunate enough to do so. But there is, like when you retire, I remember speaking to my mom very, very vividly when her and my dad sold their business. She thought this was going to be the best thing ever. 67, 68 years old, finally retiring. I'm going to live the life of my dreams. And I remember telling her, Mom, you need to have a plan. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with your day? How are you going to play it out? Are you going to volunteer somewhere? What are you going to do? And it's no different for any other person that's retiring from business. She called me about 2 months later crying. And she was just torn up. I'm so bored. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't just go for walks every day. And your dad can't play golf every day. What can we do? And so we started to walk through what that purpose was for them. And she started volunteering. She went out and got a part-time job, not because she needed it, but it gave her a purpose.
Yeah.
And it got her out into public, visiting with people, doing all those things that she loved to do.
Tell us about the podcast, your podcast, Warriors Unmasked. Love the title. I've told you that many times. It's absolutely brilliant. You think about a hockey player with the mask on and they're unmasking, a warrior unmasked. Why was it born, and what is the reaction you're getting from the marketplace?
Well, when I met Clint Malarchuk probably a couple of years ago, I had followed Clint's journey for a long, long time, and we had a lot of similarities. And the first time we talked on the phone was for 2.5 hours. And we have a mutual friend that introduced us. But when I said it to Clint, I'm like, "Would you like to do a podcast?" He's like, "Chuck, I'm on all kinds of these things." I said, "No, we're going to do one." And when we started to talk through it, we started to talk through the challenges that each one of us have dealt with, that we wear a mask. And so many of us, whether you're a hockey goalie, whether you play soccer, football, or you're in the boardroom, a lot of us wear a mask. They don't want people to know exactly who we are and what we're dealing with or what we've gone through. So we talked about that. And then he does a lot of work with the wounded warriors. And the word warrior came up because so many people that are dealing with the things, they are warriors. And because they've take so much tremendous strength and courage and perseverance to get through what they're dealing with. And so we wanted to highlight these people and show that you're not alone, that there are other people going through exactly what you're going through, some maybe not quite as bad, some far worse. And we always like to leave you with inspiration and hope, and to know that there's a light on at the end of the tunnel.
Many of the guests that I've heard on your show have had, is the correct term, failed suicide attempts?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It's, again, Cam, it's a situation where people feel they're alone and that there's no way out. Nobody's going to understand me. Nobody's going to understand what I'm going through. But the biggest thing is they feel they're alone and that there's no hope. There's nothing to keep going for. And a lot of them, I can honestly say, because I was in the same situation, not that they want to die, they just want the pain to go away. And they don't know any other way to get that pain to go away other than to commit the ultimate act. Yes.
You must feel defeated every time you get a story like this that comes in.
It's hard to hear it because it tears at your heart, and it takes me back, honestly, to 2008 when I was struggling like I was, and just to know, because I know that feeling of loneliness.
Yeah.
I was there, and I didn't feel like there was a light on at the end of the tunnel either. I didn't want to share it with anybody. Nobody understood what Chuck was going through. I was the only one dealing with it in my mind. But that's just the opposite. There's people everywhere. Chances are, if you're in a crowd of 10 people, I'd say there's 3 or 4 dealing with exactly what you're dealing with.
How can people find more about you, Chuck?
You can go online. My website is thecompassionateconnection.com, warriorsunmasked.com as well for the website. All my contact information is on there. Email me, call me. You can find me on Facebook under Chuck Thus or Compassionate Connection. I'm on Instagram.
As I've known you for years, you've never turned down the opportunity to speak to somebody who may need your thoughts, your help, your insights in there. You've always been generous with your time.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it, Cam.
Chuck Thus is a guy you need to know, folks. His podcast, as he said, Warriors Unmasked. His business is Compassionate Connection. His story is common in an elite group of people, but what he's trying to preach is the solution to the troubling situation that he went through as he left athletics, and is doing a remarkable job doing so. Chuck, thanks for your time.
Cam, thank you so much.
We'll be back after this break with final comments. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. This is Cam Marston. The Keith family has provided service to my heating and cooling system since my family and I moved into our home 12 years ago. And today, Keith Air Conditioning offers 0% financing for up to 60 months on new installations, making a new heating or cooling system for your home even easier to come by. Give them a call or find them online and let them come work their magic. Keith and Carrier. Turn to the experts.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
This is Cam Marston with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, houses on pilings can have termites eat their way up inside the piling and enter the house. The homeowner never knows about it, but your company offers protection. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Cam. Basically, what we have designed is a program, and what we do is we will actually drill to the center of the piling and put a product in the center that will stop the termites from coming up into the home.
Stucco exteriors as well?
Correct.
How can people find you, Cajun Mike?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com.
When you make the right decision, it feels good, like picking the perfect accent rug or choosing a good night's sleep over an all-night crime show binge. It feels really good to make the right insurance decision, too. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I'm right here in Mobile to help you select the right protection at the right price. I'll make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect if the unexpected happens. With me as your State Farm agent, it's easy to make the right choice. You can come by, call, or click AllisonHorner.com. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is Jay Stubbs with Concourse Financial, and when I'm not working on an insurance plan with a financial advisor, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now back to the show.
In my interviews since the pandemic began, especially more recently when retention numbers are really difficult for organizations to maintain. Their turnover is really, really high. The organizations who aren't struggling with it have a culture of care and concern for their employees in the workplace, and just as importantly, if not even more importantly, in their home life, their personal life. What Chuck is talking about here in the concern for the mental health and the anxiety of the people that he works with is something that I hope those of you who have influence in their business world will grasp onto. If retention is a struggle of yours, employee retention a struggle, then focusing on the culture and the well-being of the people develops a culture and a character of an organization that makes them want to stick around. Are they all going to stay? No. Is the retention going to spike? It's going to be influenced by it. And just as importantly, it becomes a magnet for new talent. Caring about the people to such an extent, like what Chuck said, very, very powerful stuff. I want you to consider trying this on for size. Consider trying some of the things Chuck suggested on for size in your own workplace. And as I said a moment ago, particularly with an emphasis on the well-being of your people at work and, more importantly, at home. That stuff matters. It develops retention, and not like that's the only reason to do it. It's the right thing. but there are positive business consequences to it. There's no way to deny it. All right, that's it. I want to remind you about the November 4th Succession Planning Seminar, Community Foundation of South Alabama. Email me, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com, and ask me to put you on the registration list, the RSVP list. I'll be happy to do so and give you more details. Show is produced by John Thompson with Ion Digital. Every time I say that is another day he can't drink beer on Horn Island because he's editing the show. And I'm okay with that. I'm just okay with that. All right. That's it for this week. Have a good week, everybody. We'll have another show for you next week.